Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining this class today. I will be sharing my screen now. Today, we're going to be talking about what to say when meeting with buyers. And this is a very important subject to start to talk about today, since there's a lot of agents that are new in the company and new in real estate, and they're barely starting to get to know people and starting to talk to new people about buying and selling and trying to get that first client at first. And I get a lot of questions from agents of, okay, I have this client who wants to meet with me, what am I going to say? So this topic is going to help us break down the most important things that we do have to say when we meet them. It could be either the phone or in person, in an appointment at the office or a place, just to sit there and talk about the process of buying. And usually when you get to a point where you make an appointment with a person, it's because they're pretty much ready and they want to move forward. They want to know the steps. They want to know the process of buying. They want to get a loan. They want to get pre-approved for a loan. So it's very important for us to be prepared with what we're going to say. So meeting for the first time with a new person who is thinking of buying property can be nerve-wracking if you have no idea what to say. For this reason, it is important to be prepared with the correct and precise information to stay on topic and have control of the conversation throughout the meeting. The goal, after all, is to get the client to start working with you and get them pre-qualified. So yes, it can be nerve-wracking if you are not used to talking to new people. If you've never worked in customer service, it can be nerve-wracking, but that can all go away once you practice and feel confident about what you're going to say. Usually it helps a lot when you have the knowledge of the process. You feel a lot more comfortable talking to people because you know that whatever questions they ask, you're going to be able to provide them with an answer. So that's what we're going to be talking today. And before we get into some of the points that we have to keep in mind, we're gonna review 3 points to remember when meeting a buyer. It's always if we break it down, it comes down to 3 really important points. And these points are connection, information, and key questions. So why connection, why information, and key questions, and let's look into that. So connecting with the client marks the first impression an agent leaves on the future buyer. It's important to let them know who you are, what you do, how you can help them, and also learn their background and reasons why they want to buy. This helps sympathize with their needs, and agents can help the client find the right home for them. So this is very important. That first connection is one of the things that is pretty much going to break the ice between you and a new person. So if you're working with a family member, with a friend, the conversation is going to be completely different. But if you're working with somebody who you just met, a new lead that might have contacted you based on your lead generation or any type of strategy that you were using to collect leads, it changes everything because you don't know the person. So the number one thing is not to jump straight into talking about money or talking about the loan process or talking about offers or anything like that. The first thing is getting to know the person. Ask them, hey, so why are you here? What are you looking for in a home? Or tell me more about you. What do you do for a job? Just kind of open up the conversation with the person being the center. So meaning that you are the one that wants to know about them, as opposed to talking about ourselves. Obviously, during that time, you will let them know what you do and who you are, because sometimes when you show a little bit of you being a normal person, it kind of helps them. Hey, you know what? My son plays soccer too. Or hey, I love that restaurant too. Or I go to that place too, the same as you, or something that connects you with that person, that makes them feel comfortable to work with you, that you're not just an agent who's looking for money or looking to make a deal or anything like that. You're a real person with feelings, emotions, and family and all that stuff. So connect with them, identify the things that you have in common with the person, and maybe talk about that. Once you have broken the ice, you move on to talking about the things that the person needs to learn, and so you can help them for the next step. So connection is very important. And I believe it's probably the number one thing that we have to keep in mind. Information would be the second one. During a meeting with a client, one of your main goals is to leave them with a correct information about the process of buying. You don't want to overwhelm them with too much information, but leave them feeling like their questions were answered and they have the information they need. So it's very important to provide them with the right information or education, because there is a lot of people that hear rumors, that hear things here and there, and a buyer might come with you and tell you, hey, I've been hearing that the houses are gonna crash, or the prices of the houses are gonna go down, or the opposite, the prices of the houses are gonna go up. Or, hey, I heard the interest rates are so high that we shouldn't be buying anything. Usually they come with erroneous information that you want to correct them, and let them know that this is the way that the market is. This is your expert advice. This is your expert knowledge about the market and how it is and their possibilities of buying, how, the whole thing. And usually people come and most of the people want to know the financial area of the process of buying a house. And that's something that we're going to touch right now. You want to leave them with the correct information, and nothing like, well, maybe, or I'm not really sure. None of that stuff. Always leave them with a firm answer that they feel comfortable going into the process, because there's nothing more difficult than working with somebody who's very insecure about what they're doing. Because you may work with them, you may spend the time, you may invest the time, your work and hours in this person, money's been handled, and then that person backs out because they feel so insecure. So our job is to provide them with the information that they need from the very beginning, so they feel confident about the process that they're about to do. It's not just, buying something simple. It's not just a couple thousand. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars that they're about to, they're about to invest, they're about to get a loan of. And it's very important for us to make them feel comfortable. And if we don't have the answer to some of their questions, obviously we're gonna let them know, you know what, I don't know the answer to that, but let me talk to somebody that does, and I'll get back to you on that. If you're in person, you can text somebody right away. You can text your coach, myself, or your broker. Make sure you get that answer and provide it as soon as possible. Don't let a day pass by without you providing them with that information. So this is number two, the point number two that we have to keep in mind when talking to buyers. And number three is key questions. During the consultation, there are many questions that have to be asked in order to get the information you need to help them. It is always recommended to use a buyer's questionnaire sheet to either have them fill out, or you ask the questions during the time of the meeting. So a buyer questionnaire sheet, or sheet, it's really, really recommended to have. I don't think any agent should work without it, because there's a lot of key questions that you have to ask the client in order to be able to help them go through the process. There's a lot of things that you have to keep in mind. For example, you may ask all the questions and they provide it with you and it sounds like they're good to go, but if you forgot to ask, do you have the funds for the deposit? Do you have the funds for the down payment? And they tell you something like, oh yeah, I do. But if you don't ask them further questions like, is it in your bank right now? And this person happens to have this uncle or his mom or dad that they're the ones that are going to give them the money, but they are counting it as theirs. And that, for example, it has happened before where people, they don't have the entire down payment for the loan and they're getting, they're borrowing money from other people. And the bank always requires for the money to be in the bank for at least 30 days. And if that money is not there, it's going to be a headache trying to get that money in, because also you're not supposed to put over a certain amount, because the bank is going to require proof of where it's coming and then bank statements from the person that it's coming. So to avoid those type of things, I mean, this is just an example. To avoid those kind of things, it's very important for us to make sure the client is fully ready to be to talk to a lender. And maybe this person is in a lease contract and you're trying to help them now, but their lease doesn't end until the end of the year. So that's a long time from, maybe the beginning of the year. And that buyer questionnaire helps us a lot to determine how ready that person is right now. So it's important to keep these 3 points in mind. These are connection, information, and key questions. And if you keep this in mind, the rest of the stuff is going to come, after these 3 things. So let's move forward to the next part. Here are 5 things you need to say during a buyer's consultation. Sorry. So these are the things that these are very general things. And under these 5 things or these 5 points, fall a lot of other points that we have to keep in mind. Number 1 being talking about the loan process. And like I mentioned, this is a subject, or this is probably one of the things that people ask a lot of when you're talking to them about buying a house. So buyers are always going to have questions regarding the loan process. As an agent, you may give them a general explanation of the process, but we are not allowed to give them further information about the loan type, interest rates, or other detailed information. Leave this topic to the lender. So this is something, this is very important to know. We are not the loan officers, so we stay away from certain topics. For example, interest rates and loan types. We can't qualify the person and tell them, well, you're going to qualify for this type of loan, or you're going to be able to get this type of interest, or you're going to be able to get give this type of down payment. We can't do that because we are not licensed in that area. We are real estate agents. We help in the process of searching for a home and submitting offers and negotiations. So we may give them like a general explanation, meaning these are the type of loans that you may qualify, but we can't tell the person this is the loan that works better for you. We have to leave it to the lender. So write down the questions that they might have. It also helps if you're with them and the lender is maybe in the same office. They can talk to you and then they can talk to the lender. That works. I mean, I worked like that before, and it's amazing because you get everything done at that moment. So you can schedule an appointment with the person and tell them, you know what, the lender is going to be there. So bring your documents, your general documents, of course, and After you talk to me, you're going to talk to the lender to see how much you qualified for. So you may have, the general process of the loan that kind of applies for everybody or for every type of loan type. You can tell them this is how it's going to look like. This is a due diligence period. This is a financial contingency period, or this is the appraisal period, and just let them know what it's going to look like, but in a very general way. So we can't give a lot of details because this may confuse what the loan officer tells them. So you might tell them something and they get excited, and then the loan officer tells them something else, and then you're the one that looks bad. So talking about the loan process is one of the things that we just have to be careful. And this is one of the things that we end up talking about during the buyer's consultation. Number 2 is a brokerage engagement. It is important to make sure that the client is not being represented by another agent. This is something that needs to be asked in the beginning of the consultation. If they're not working with anyone, open the conversation of being able to represent them and secure them to continue working with you. Agents are not allowed to work with people that are being represented by other agents. So we have to keep this in mind always. If this person has been looking at houses before, obviously, if you ask them, have you looked at houses before? Has anybody showed houses to you? And they say no, you probably assume that they're not being represented by anyone. But you do have to eventually have to know that from them if they've been working with another agent and if they've signed a brokerage engagement agreement. If they're not, obviously you move forward to letting them know that you're going to represent them, and in order to represent them, they have to sign this brokerage agreement. A lot of people get scared of it, especially older people. They want to know what they're signing or what the contract says. And it's just, if you can go over the exclusive buyer brokerage agreement, if you can go over this contract and memorize the general content of it, so you can explain to your clients after, explain to the people that you're going to work with what it says, it gives them a lot of comfort. Some people don't ask and they just sign it because you let them know this is the agreement between you and me for me to be able to represent you and submit offers for you. And they don't ask anything else and they just sign it. So when should we sign a brokerage engagement agreement? And this agreement has to be signed as soon as possible once the client is pre-qualified. So you got a lead that is pre-qualified and they're ready to show houses. You can put it, well, before I show you houses, please sign this document, to move forward. And this is a great way to make them sign it in the beginning. I've had people that they didn't even want to sign it, and when they wanted to continue looking at houses with me. And I believe one person, after the third house, I told her, I'm sorry, but I don't think I can sign. I'm sorry, I don't think I can show you any more houses if this contract isn't signed, because this allows me to represent you and make offers. And she turned around and she signed it right there. I had it in paper. She signed it and I got her to sign it. But if you want to see how serious a person is, you want to show them one house, two houses, and then get it signed, that's fine too. But you have to get it signed as soon as possible. Don't wait until the moment the client has seen 10 houses and they want to make an offer, and then you got all these tons of documents that they have to sign on top of the offer. So this is very important to remember. Number 3 is market status. During this conversation, it is important to talk about the current market status, giving your client a little insight of what's happening in the market and educating them in what they will see available for them. It prepares the client to make a more determined decision on a property and how to make an offer. So during our conversation, you have to talk about what the market status is like, what we're seeing as agents, how fast homes are selling. And obviously, since we've been in a seller's market for quite a bit of time now, we are in a seller's market, so you have to let them know that, you know, there might be competition. The houses are selling pretty fast. And this will kind of put a little bit of pressure in the person, not in a bad way, but to let them be aware that if they see a house, they have to make a decision as soon as they can. They can't, you know, well, we'll watch it. We'll see if we'll see if we're ready next week, or we'll come back to it next week or another day and look at it again. Like, they might not have that time. So the houses may sell so fast that they might not have that time, and they lose a property that was probably or could have been potentially their home, their future home. So letting them know this is how fast we have to move helps a lot, and it puts perspective on them on what they're going to be seeing. So if they find what they need, and they're willing to compromise a thing or two, because there's always a compromise when purchasing a house, it helps them a lot to make the decision or to be more determined. So, for example, last year and the year before that, the houses went up and there was so little inventory, and so many people were buying that the houses were literally flying off the shelves so quickly that people didn't even have a chance to submit an offer. And people were offering above the price, the listing price. So that's one of the things that you can let them know. I mean, back then you had to let people know the houses are selling so fast that if we don't move fast, or if we don't make a higher offer, it's going to be very difficult to get the house. So educate the client, educate the buyer, and it'll help tremendously for when it comes to making the decision. Number 4, home criteria and home and search process. Finally, you will need to collect the criteria of the home they are looking for, everything from location to style to personal needs and price range. When this information is collected, talk about what it will be like when looking at houses, and what to expect based on the current market status, like we mentioned, as mentioned before. So, yeah, during that appointment, you're going to be collecting all of the information that you need for the house that they're looking for. It's very important for us as agents to remember what the client needs. If you are sending that client houses that they specifically said, you know what, I need a house with the basement, I can't take anything else, and you're sending them houses without a basement, it can really frustrate them and maybe, you know, want to work with somebody else. So it's very important for us to be very know what the person is looking for, what kind of things they want. Even if they sound picky, we have to try our best to provide them with the properties that they are looking for, and as close as possible. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of compromises, but you can talk to them. Look, I can't find a house, you know, with that specific criteria, but this is something similar that you can work and maybe you can fix, and in the future you can add this thing that you're looking for. You know, help them to kind of visualize the property that they're looking for in a house that might not have all of the things that they're asking for. So during the conversation, you will be talking about the home criteria. Collect it, make as many notes as you want and as you can, and just remember it for when it's time to do the home search. And last, number 5, during this conversation, ask for referrals. So always when you have an opportunity to talk to somebody and you're talking about real estate, always ask for a referral, because even if that person is not ready to buy or sell, they might know somebody who will, or who is looking for a house, or who is willing to sell their house, or is looking to sell their house. At the end of the conversation, whether the person is ready to start looking for a house or not, ask for a referral, ask them if they know anybody, like a friend or a family member who is looking to buy or even sell property. Even if they don't, if they say they don't know anybody, you don't lose anything by asking, you will be surprised. So sometimes they won't even tell you, hey, my mom is looking for a house, or hey, my sister is looking for a house. Sometimes they won't even say stuff like that, but unless you ask them. So always ask for a referral and make sure that this is done at the end, when the ice is broken, when there's a connection, when the person is satisfied, the person is excited and motivated to start looking for a house. Ask them, hey, do you know anybody else who's looking for a house? Here's my business card. If anybody comes up, just give them my business card, because they will be talking about you. Whether it's positive or negative, they're going to be talking about you with other people. So make sure that they're talking about you in a positive way, and you're leaving a business card for them to share with another person. If you have any questions or comments during this recording, feel free to leave a comment below, and I will get back to you on that. If you don't have one yet, here's a copy of a buyer's questionnaire, and I have a small copy right here, and we're gonna go over it right now. So if we zoom in, we see the lead sheet buyer questionnaire, we see the date, the lead source. It's very important to know where that lead is coming from. If this is a lead from social media, then you put social media here. If this is from cold calling, from an event, from a friend or referral or something, always write down so you remember where that lead came from. You write down their personal information, like name, if they have a spouse, their home address, cell phone number, the spouse's cell phone number if that person is going to be buying also, the email address of the second buyer, which could be the spouse, and the number of children that they have, and the social security number. And this is for the loan process purposes. And some of the questions that it will be asking have any other agents shown you property recently? And this is where you would put if they were represented by another agent. Are you buying alone or with anyone else? And this is where that question comes from. This information comes from. If they're buying by themselves, then only the person who's buying the information goes here. And if not, well, then you put the second buyer here. Do you rent or own? Need sell before buying? And this is really important. They might want to sell a house before they start. They're looking for a house, but they have a house of their own that they also need to sell, that you can also represent them. Do you have a mortgage? If they have a mortgage, you have to gather that information, which is really important. Are you in a mortgage agreement to sell? When does that lease end? Blah, blah, blah. So if there are renters, you have to ask them, when does your lease end? Because that will determine when they're ready, when they will be ready to move out of their home. What date do you need to move in? Like I mentioned, how motivated are you to begin the process of buying a property? Meaning, are you ready right now, like start looking for houses? Or do you need a couple months till your lease ends, or how the situation, depending on the person. What obstacles are you facing to take the step of buying? So these are very important questions that can help you determine if the person is ready to buy right now. Will this purchase be cash or through a loan? So before you start talking about the loan process, you have to ask them, do you have cash or do you want to get a loan? Some people buy cash, so this is where that information is going to go. Have you spoken with a lender? some people come pre-qualified already, so they've spoken with the lender, they have a pre-qualification letter. And all you have to do is just collect the information of the bank so you can contact the lender. How much would you want to use for your down payment? This is also regarding their, their savings. How much money do they have and how much money are they willing to, or they're wanting to put down? What price range are you looking for? This is very important. After you've let them know how the market is, what the average sales price in a home is, how much money do you want how much do you want to spend in a house? Anyone else be part of this decision? Sometimes one person is buying a house, but somebody else is influencing in that person, like a parent. And it's very important to know that, because sometimes you're working with a person, but somebody else is talking to them and giving them information or making the decisions with them, even if they're not buying. So this may also be a spouse, the other spouse doesn't qualify. So that, obviously that person has a lot of decisions that they want to approve or, also be very involved. So the analysis is what they're looking for. What areas are you considering moving to? What type of home are you looking for? The number of beds, bedrooms, bathrooms, stories, square feet, etc. School district, and any other specifics, you write it down here. And make sure you put the next appointment date on here. So after you've done writing down as much information as you possibly can, make sure that once you're done, you make another appointment with the client. And this, even if they weren't qualified, or you believe that they might not be getting pre-qualified, you can talk to them or make an appointment for the amount of time that they need in order for them to get pre-qualified. And as we usually do, a challenge of the week for this week is make as many calls as you can to book a buyer consultation and put these points to work. So build your own presentation for buyers. Keep it in your iPad, keep it in a presentation, however it is that you find it easier for you to remember all these points. And you can just simply base it on the buyer questionnaire. But if you have a presentation ready, then go ahead and internalize it so you can conversate with the person during the meeting. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for connecting. And like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to write them down as a comment below.